Live to
We
indeed.
are on the air, Steve.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Backstage Pass, a Big Steve's Backstage Pass on YouTube. And we love seeing you guys. If you like these things, please remember to give us a like and subscribe if you can. Now, I'm going to go to a real little corner of the Grateful Dead world that we haven't explored much and doesn't even get talked about that much, but it's kind of interesting in a lot of ways. And what it's about is a show called Saturday Night Live, which was really a big hit when it popped out right away in the 70s. And so it was so new. It started around 1975, I believe, for sure. And it was so new, but we watched it all the time if we were around. Uh, Mostly working on Saturday nights, so we would have to miss it and watch reruns. But we liked it. The humor was in our vein. It was done by people of our generation, and it was a whole new concept of this live thing. So it got a lot of great attention from everybody, and the Aykroyd and Belushi and Jane Curtin, Gilda Radner, Lorraine Newman, Garrett Morris, Bill Murray, all became household terms to us, and talking about them, and if we thought they did something funny. So they would have little music on there each show too. And here's what happened. Okay. First thing was the writers, and the writers for the show were Al Franken, who became Senator Al Franken from Minnesota, and Tom Davis. And Tom Davis and Al became our good friends first. But here's how it started. We were doing a show at Winterland, and it was around 76 or 77, let's say. And we were playing at Winterland, and that night, Jackson had got it in his head that everybody that came up on stage in that party with the Grateful Dead playing was going to take a drop of acid. And so we were giving everybody a drop as they came up. I was kind of against it, but they knew what they were doing. And some people refused it completely. Some gladly took it, and it was crazy. But Jackson had made his mind up, and when that happened, you just went along with it. It was part to do with all of the party up there and trying to figure it all out and keep track of it, believe it or not. So Rex Jackson goes to the bathroom. He says, "Steve, you stand here and keep, you know, keep her the gate here on the stage." So up the ramp come these two guys that I don't recognize at all. And uh, I said, "What do you guys want?" And they said, "Hi, we're friends of Candace Brightman, our lighting director out there." And they said, "She told us to come up here and ask for Big Steve and come hang out up on stage." And I said, "Well, we're a little crowded tonight." And I didn't know the guy, so I didn't want to give him any acid or anything like that. So I definitely said goodbye, go back out there to Candace. And I didn't say it in a very nice way. I used the vernacular of the stage, and told him to go back out there and fucking leave me alone. And so I didn't know who they were at all, but they were the head writers of the show. So 2 weeks later, I was on the road with Jerry Garcia band, and we were up. I think we were playing in Boston area, and we kept our hotel room so we could take showers because we were jumping on the bus all together and the truck, and we were going to drive down to New York. And I go in to take a shower, and then kid who was out on the road with me, uh, Billy the Kid, he called me and he said, "Hey, man, they just mentioned your name all over Saturday Night Live." I said, "What?" And he said, "Yeah, And so we got dressed and we were leaving that night. So we left the hotel there. It was a Howard Johnson somewhere in Massachusetts. And we head down to New York. And then when I get to New York, we were staying at the hotel where everybody knew where I was. Well, I got messages from all my friends and a lot of people. They said, "Hey, John Belushi played you in a skit." And this is a picture of it right here of the skit. And Belushi's Steve Parrish, and Right next to him is Garrett Morris as the rent-a-cop. And then that's Stephen Bishop, who was the music on the show that night. But the real host of the show was Art Garfunkel. Now, that was something from where I grew up as a kid. My third grade teacher was Mrs. Simon. She was Paul Simon's mother. So Garfinkel, and Simon had played at our third grade Christmas party, and it was they were called Tom and Jerry in those days. They were doing a folk act. So it was all a very interesting little thing in my life that came together here. And so the backstage guy, the keeper of the gate, was Belushi playing Steve Parrish. And they were going by the list that Garrett Morris had, and everybody's jumping in. Now, this scene right here, there's Garfunkel, and he had a parachute under his arm. He supposedly was the brother of the band. Now, the band that was playing was Kiss, is what they said. But everybody else knew, my people knew, well, man, they called it Kiss, but it was Grateful Dead. And so they did the joke of, hey, I just parachuted in to see my brother. I parachuted into the parking lot. And then I was deciding whether to let him in. His name wasn't on the list. So Aykroyd pops out and brings him in. Now, the next scene will show you here is Bill Murray, and he's with Jane Curtin, and they are completely, he's saying that he's Jerry Aldini from the record company, and his name's not on the list, so I say you're not coming in. And he lays the line that was the big laugh of the set, and that is, oh, you, Steve Parrish, is that you? Well, you'll never work in this business again, Steve Parrish. And so that's the crux of the joke in there. And so everybody was teasing me about it. But there you go with me. Now a guy comes up with a nitrous tank, and you see those blue tanks right there? That's a medical tank. That's what they look like. And that's all we ever did. When you see it in any place, and I'll mention it again, the blue tank is medical grade. They're now forbidden. In those days they weren't. So this is Dr. Feelgood, and that's Tom Davis, the guy who wrote the skit, to get back at me for me throwing them off the stage. So there he is right there, Tom Davis with the cowboy hat on there, and Dr. Feelgood. He gets to go right in with the nitrous tank, which was pretty much how we did things in those days. And so they ribbed me pretty good on it, man, and got me to where everybody was having a good laugh on Steve. But it sort of jumped it up, a little bit at the time. And so, yeah, move on for me here. And now this is the first time the band, shortly after that, actually later that year, November 11th, which of course is Veterans Day, was a great party there that we had. First time we played there. And there's Donna Jean and Bobby and Jerry singing. They had a really great sound system there. It was really fun to learn all about how the TV setup was. And there's our setup. We were right behind the drum riser, me and Ramrod, and we were down, almost laying down back there because you had to really crouch down. But we stayed out there in case we had to cover anything. We had the drum riser right there. And the beauty of that show was that they let Kreutzmann do a skit with them. And there's Belushi. And there's Bill Murray as a lounge singer, and they're supposed to be two truckers. It's at a truck stop lounge singing. So it was kind of funny in those days to think about that. And so Kreutzmann got to be on the show, and he had a great time doing that. It was a funny little skit, and everything was just total friendship. It was like we were all old home week with these guys, and they loved us and the whole scene. They knew all about us. It was really Candace who had first made friends with some of them, and she brought the whole thing about in that way by that having them come to Winterland. And so it became a relationship where Belushi was really close with us and all the guys. And we went back again and played this is April 15th or 5th, April 5th in 1980. Did another show there, and that was a little different, but pretty much the same up in the studio there. We knew the routine by then. I think oh yeah, it was what's his name? The first time we played, the host was Buck Henry, and he was doing some funny skits back then. And I'm trying to remember who was the host on the second time here, but we didn't. I don't remember right now, but you can look all that up. You can look at all this stuff and see these performances. And that first time playing there, the guys did Good Lovin'. I'll never forget. It was a snappy Good Lovin', great. They opened with Casey Jones, and they in the middle they did it was a Bobby song, but it escapes me right now. You can look all that up by the dates, and they're in anthologies of Saturday
We
Night
did I
Live.
Need a Miracle, that second
I Need a
song.
Miracle. That's the one. That was the Bobby song. Thank you. Thank you, Jeremy. And, you know, uh, it was a well rounded set, and it was they played twice on the show, once in the beginning and then later on. And so this time, uh, I know they played, oh man, I'm trying to remember now. Uh, what did they start with on that set, Jeremy, on the
They were
second?
promoting Go to Heaven, so you got
Oh,
Alabama
right. That's right.
Getaway and Saint of Circumstance,
That's
that kind
right.
of stuff.
We were promoting Go to Heaven. He's correct there. And so they were playing Saint of Circumstance, which is a pretty interesting song to do. An Alabama Getaway they started with, which worked really well on television. You see, the guys were always very dubious about television sound, but they had some great sound people there to help us. And they were there the second time. And so things were a lot smoother with the setup and the sound, but we were still right back there on stage on the set with them, and it was just a lot of fun to be part of that and to watch how Saturday Night Live, which was a live comedy show, was put together. Man, it was amazing to watch live TV like that. That's a skill that's very rare and hard to do, just like live anything is. And here you see another shot of the second time we played there. And it's interesting for a couple of different reasons, but there's Brent in over on the right of your screen. And there you see Bobby and Jerry had switched. I guess Phil is way over on Jerry's side there. He's not able to be seen in this picture here. But um, it was a great experience, just a lot of fun. A lot of pot smoking went on both times, and it was a great atmosphere. And Belushi was just became a solid friend of ours. Now, after these shows, we went and hung out with the Blues Brothers. We went down to their nightclub in New York for after hours, and the whole band and the most of the cast was down there, and the guys played together, and we hung out there all night, man, until the wee hours of the morning when the sun was up, and had a great little private party in there. A couple of people from the public got in there before the doors were locked, but it was great, and there were rails, lines being put out on billiard tables. It was anything goes kind of after hours party. It was open bar type of thing, and everybody was having a great wild time, man. Lots of weed was smoked, and lots of great music, man. Blues, really good blues. And that, of course, led to this picture here, which is at Winterland on New Year's Eve, 78. And the Blues Brothers, before the movie was done, they came and played. Aykroyd and Belushi played at Winterland. Now, that guy talking to Belushi, his name is Peter Sheridan. And he worked with us for a while, and he was a crazy nut. I'm going to do a whole show on that character because he ended up working a little bit for Willie Nelson, where Willie named him Sweet Pete. We called him Crazy Sheridan, Craze. And he was a real character. Now, the reason this picture hung in my workshop at 20 Front Street for so long, and that's why somebody came in there one day, while we were hanging out. We would hang out in our workshops a lot of time working on guitars and amplifiers while the band was rehearsing in the next other half of the building. And so somebody came in with a magic marker and put halos over both these guys because in a couple of years they were dead, both of them, and one in Peter in a motorcycle accident, and Belushi due to drug mishandling. But Belushi hung out with us all the time and showed up at the right time and right places when we were recording in New York and in LA. He came and hung out with us all the time. And it was a real great experience getting to know him, man. He became close friends with us, and all of them did. Aykroyd and Bill Murray. Bill Murray's a big deadhead and still was there. He was there every time he could, at the Fairly Well shows. Bill Murray was there, and at the, what do you call it? The last shows at Oracle Park in San Francisco of Dead and Company. He was there for those. And also, Al Franken and Tom Davis became dear, dear friends of ours, man, really close to us. And Jerry had been wanting to make a movie for a long time, and we'll talk about that really soon. In the next episode, I'm going to talk about that. But Jerry had he bought the rights to the movie Sirens of Titan by Kurt Vonnegut, and he wanted to make that in a movie. And Tom Davis wrote the first draft of scripts for that when Jerry bought the rights to that book. And so he became very close to us too. So we mingled with Saturday Night Live guys, and we had so much fun with them. They became our friends, and they always brightened up shows when they popped around. But the Blues Brothers played that night, and they had Duck Dunn and Steve Cropper, and Jerry was loving that band, man. He just thought it was great players because they were the ones that backed up all of Motown. Cropper and Dunn were famous in Motown for playing on some really famous music. So you can look those guys up.
So we're tight on time, Steve, but real quick, what was it like loading into Rockefeller Center? Because I've been in that building. That's a tough.
Oh yeah, it was very different for us, but we knew, we had a truck come by, we pulled out the stuff that we knew we needed. We had put it when we loaded the truck, knowing that we were going in there. What we would do, we would load the small setup of the small amps that we were going to use there, and a smaller setup. We had to, but we still had to take an organ in there and everything and all that stuff. So it was very slow getting in. Of course, it's a union place, and so we knew how to work with those guys. We pulled off what we needed from the truck, and with enough of our guys watching, and everything went from the street at 30 Rock. There's a little loading dock in the back there, and everything went to the elevator and went up to the studio. I think it was 4C. And once you get up there, you got a big hallway to set everything up. We kept our cases and things there and treated it like we would any other venue. But we brought our gear up in there. I think we had a couple of things from Studio Instruments rentals, but not much. If you notice, that first time and the second, we had our big riser in there, but we had that folded up into a small movable piece. You see it there, right in that picture there. So we brought, what we needed, but not too much, not as much as we usually could use. Jerry's on his twin and cabinet setup that he would always play. Because you have to be very modulated, and much more dynamics have to come into television sound, which they were very concerned about in those days, because nobody had respect for TV sound. And once you even get it all worked out, it only goes through what people have on their home TV, a small speaker, So sound was very interesting, but they really did a professional job of it there. And the lighting, too, was a lot of fun, and learning about all that. Yeah. All right. Thank you all so much. Thank you for paying attention to us. There's a lot of things in our lives that one of the things that I really am telling you right now, this is a beautiful product right here. Jerry Garcia CBD. This is the broad spectrum. When you see the red hand, now this is some tincture of the nighttime, when that's the blue tincture right there for sleep. Go to jerrygarciawellness.com. Look these products up. There's also a pain cream, and you will be surprised at how great they work. The pain cream is incredible. Thank you all so much for paying attention. We'll see you again real soon. Take care of yourself. Stay safe. Stay happy and take care. Thank you. This is Big Steve's Backstage